Energy comes from creation at the basic building blocks level of our world. What more of a sign do you need that that is our purpose? So when atomic bonds form, energy is released. When they are broken, extra energy must be used to do so, and no energy is gained from this. The energy comes from the preceding reforming of new bonds. Uh, basically, what I'm saying here is like when you there is no energy like when you break bonds, it's not that energy is released by the breaking of bonds. When you have a fire, the energy of the fire is not from bonds being broken, but rather from the bonds that are reformed after bonds are broken, right? So when you have things with energy, right, you cause the reaction to take place by putting energy in. You put energy in, it causes them to break, right? Then the restructuring and reforming of new bonds is what releases energy. It is not when the bonds are broken that energy is released. It's when the bonds are reformed, right? And in order to break the bonds in the first place, you had to add in energy, right? You add in energy, it breaks the bonds, energy, the bonds reform, energy is released. That's how reactions take place. What more of an argument do you need that destruction and death have no power and are not something to be sought out, right? So we actively waste energy pursuing these goals, right? And these are patterns that play out on the human scale, right? We spend great amounts of wealth, resources, and energy on building up armies and military technologies and use them to destroy other countries. This destruction does not strengthen a country outright, but rather allows for new bonds to form, right? So, what I'm trying to say here is that in order for, say a country wants to, become bigger, become stronger, get more resources, right? In order to do that, to get more resources and get stronger and get larger, right? They have to put energy into creating an army and funding an army and military technology and armor and, guns and all these things, right? So they have to put money and energy into creating this army, right? And then they use this army to go and destroy another country, right? And then from that, a lot of energy, you had to put energy into destroying that country, right? And then the energy that was used to destroy that country, right, is kind of lost, right? So in a reaction, right, something I should specify also is, so the bonds, when you break these bonds, right? So the bonds that you are breaking, right, are not the same as the bonds that reform. The bonds that reform have less energy, right? They will reform and they will release excess energy, right? But when you break these bonds now, if they were to reform new bonds, they will not release more energy or the same amount of energy as the first round of bond breaking, right? When these bonds broke and reformed, right, more energy was released than there will be when the bonds, break and reform on the next way down on the chain. If even it is energetically possible and favorable to break them again, right? So it may be that you could put a ton of energy in and there's just no energy to be gained out of doing that, right? They just won't really there's no other bonds they can form into. So there's no energy to be gained from breaking and reforming those bonds, because in order to break the bonds, you have to put energy in, but in order to reform those bonds, right, then, I don't know. I'm getting too much into chemistry that I don't fully understand, so I'm going to try not to misspeak here, and keep it more at the general level because that's where I'm at. Right. So anyway, basically the army is the energy you have to put in, right? And so when these bonds reform, that's you rebuilding the country, right? So now you've gotten that country's resources, but because you conquered it. But in the process of conquering it, you destroyed the previous infrastructure. So now you have to put energy into rebuilding the previous infrastructure to get back to a level of good production, right? So maybe during the war, the farmland got bombed and destroyed, right? So you have to, so like a lot of the farmland is no longer fertile, or maybe like there was industry, like industrial plants and factories and things that you wanted, but they got destroyed in the war. So now you have to spend energy and time to rebuild them. And the whole point of taking them over kind of is mute because you had to build them again anyway, right? And so what I'm trying to get at here is that before I continue on is basically you had to put energy in to go conquer this country, to build yourself up to be stronger. But if you put the same amount of energy you put into going to conquer that place into your own country, you could have potentially, gotten more out of the result, or you could have been, instead of destroying that country, you could have partnered with that country, right? You could have created a bond, right? And more energy is released when bonds are formed than when they are broken, right? So you could have made a bond with that country, and you could have had a strong trade, agreement, right? And you could have bolstered your country and made it stronger and helped make that country stronger. And as a result of making that country stronger and your country stronger, your bond is stronger, right? And so it's just overall, it is a positive impact. But when you destroy that country, there is only a net loss, right? There is less energy now in the system than when it was started. Right? Because you had to put energy into your army, you had to put energy into breaking the other country, you had to put energy into rebuilding the other country, right? All of that energy is just gone, right? It's no longer in the system. Whereas when you bond with the other country, all of the energy that would have been expended to conquer it is still in the system. You still have that energy, you still have those resources, you still have that time even, right? So it's just an overall net benefit, right? And so it is more favorable to create bonds than to break them, right? And so that's what I'm trying to say. And this is not just at an economic, at the personal, at the global level, right? This is atomic. We are talking the fundamental level of reality. Right? We're talking fundamentals here. And I mean, okay, fundamental, all right, it's atomic, right? These are atoms. The atoms are not the fundamental level. I understand. But this is like core building blocks of the material world here, right? And we observe this behavior there, right? At the fundamental building blocks, we observe this behavior, right? And if that's how our world is built and that's how our world runs, like, shouldn't we be following that, right? Shouldn't we follow that logic? Don't you think that maybe there's a reason why it works that way? Maybe it's because that's the best way, right? I don't know. Who's to say, right? When new bonds form in chemistry, they form at lower energies, and so the excess is released, and a portion of that energy is forever lost to the entropy of the universe. This can be seen with a devastated war zone country, as all the existing infrastructure and resources must be rebuilt and some parts are just lost. Why would we seek to lessen our collective power and energy when we can work together to enhance it instead? This is not hippie mumbo jumbo. It is science. It is fact. The only thing that prevents this outcome from being a reality is ourselves. If everyone decided tomorrow there will be peace, there would be. But not all believe this can happen, and there are those who doubt. And as long as we proliferate such mentalities, they will be correct. start the change, heal the world, right? So pretty much what I'm saying is the fact that there is war and conflict in the world is only a thing because we say it is, right? If we said no one kill each other anymore, no one fight, and we all just agreed, then there would no longer be any more killing or fighting, right? Because everyone would just agree. But the reality is that everyone doesn't trust each other and doesn't agree with each other, right? And doesn't and thinks that everyone else is out to get them and all these things, right? So no one has faith or trust in each other. And so because no one trusts each other, everyone is constantly kind of fighting against each other. And because everyone's fighting against each other, all we are doing is depleting resources rather than building them, right? In the long term, this is not sustainable, right? The reason why atoms function the way they do is because they I would say need, but they need and or want to conserve energy, right? The purpose of atoms forming is to conserve energy, is to consolidate energy, is to hold it and lock it in place, right? And the more that you kind of collect this together, the more energy is locked in and, kept from, being freed and being lost to entropy, right? And so it is more favorable to hold these stable connections and form bonds and, lock in this energy, right? And when these bonds are broken, right, new bonds form, but those bonds form weaker, right? They have less energy in them, right? So the energy that is released is the energy that is basically excess, but then since that excess energy has been released, now when those bonds break again, when they go to reform, they have even less excess energy to release. And at some point, they just really don't have excess energy to release. So it's not even worth it, right? And so if all we do is go around conquering and killing each other, at some point there will be no longer anything worth conquering or killing for, right? And so what am I trying to say here is, hey, let's stop doing that, right? Because if you decide today that you're going to start building stronger connections and relations with your neighbors, and then let's start even smaller, with your family, right? And for some people, neighbors or friends might be a better option than family because there's, struggles there. I'm fortunate. But the thing is that you pick local, right? You pick local and you say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to form some, stronger bonds with my friends. Like I have friends, but, do we really kind of work together to achieve our goals? I don't know. We hang out, right? But do we really help each other? And do we really build towards a stronger thing? And the answer is, for a lot of people, I think no. And it's not that we don't like our friends, we don't want to do that. It's just not encouraged. It's just not the way the world is shown to us. It is not shown that the more you work together, the more, the easier things are, right? Many hands make light work, right? That's a saying. And the thing is everything is very individualistic, me, what's in it for me? What do I get out of this? And the reality is that if everyone around you is benefiting, right, you are going to be benefited yourself. If you help them, move into their house, and then you help them repaint their bathroom, and you help them, get to the airport, right? When you need help with something, they are more inclined to help you. Not necessarily because they owe you, but because they are there for you because you are there for them. It is not a, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. It's we are a collective here. We just help each other, right? And community and relations, and even just on the family level, is so broken in our society because everyone's so individualistic. Oh, I gotta get out and move out of. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get away from my parents. Like I had to get away from here. I had to get as far away as possible. Some people like I understand you've got family struggles and stuff, but there are a lot of people like they just can't wait to get away from their family. And if your family is not great, then you need to get some friends, I would say, and you need to have good relations with your friends, because the stronger your friend relations are, the easier things will be, right? And I don't know. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that at any level you look at this, forming connections and building relations is stronger than breaking them, right? Because if all you do is ruin relationships and cut everything and everyone off, right, then you are just left in solitude and you are left to deal with everything yourself, and everything is 10 times harder than it needs to be, right? So don't do that. And again, this let's all be one is not hippy dippy crap. It's just scientific truth. It's just what works. It's just how reality is. And so I don't understand why we're so not, why that's not how things are. Like, I don't understand why we're not following that, why we're actually doing the opposite, right? I don't know. I just think it's really weird. So, yeah. Peace out.